Hi, this is Dr. Grande. I hope you find this video useful. If that's the case, please like it and subscribe to my channel. And as always, thanks for watching. Hi Brooke, hi Janina. How you doing today?
We're doing better.
Doing better?
Yeah, better.
So last time when we were meeting toward the end, we were talking about setting boundaries with your mother, Janina.
Yes.
Setting boundaries with your mother. And I think that was pretty much the exercise that you took home.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that go?
We definitely agreed that boundaries need to be set. We're just not really sure where the lines need to be drawn.
All right. Is that how you feel about it too, Brooke?
Yeah, I was really happy to kind of, her and I vented about it, and we totally and utterly agree on it. We weren't sure how to do it, and we certainly don't want to damage the relationship. I mean, to me, it's still a pretty toxic relationship, but it's still something we don't really want to get rid of, obviously. Right. It's her mother.
Sure.
So we're just not sure how to go about drawing boundaries or outlining that.
All right. So you have this relationship with your mother.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that relationship is mostly positive, but in some ways it tends to interfere with your relationship between the two of you. And you want to strike a balance that you can both agree upon, but will also kind of take care of some of this interference that you think is going on.
Pretty much.
All right. So so let's talk about some specifics with the boundaries. What are some activities and behaviors that your mother does or doesn't do that you'd want to see adjusted in some way?
Definitely the phone calls, the constant harping on certain things that needs to dial back, because it's really just starting to stress everybody out, especially the two of us, and it's just making things much more difficult. So definitely if we can reduce the amount of phone calls and the intensity of those phone calls.
All right.
I mean, it's every phone call is something extremely serious and stress-inducing. And I mean, sometimes you can have a pleasant moment with a woman, but most of the time just, you're going to have kids. Well, when you have kids, you're going to do this, 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 and this. So that is, of course.
Exactly.
It's not going to go, some of our stresses aren't going to go away once we do have kids. And that's what we realized, so.
All right, so it's the phone calls, but it's also
It's the tone, it's making every little issue seem like the end of the world.
All right. So it's the level of emotion
Yes.
that's brought in that phone call. That's problematic.
Yeah.
All right, so you'd like to see a change in that relationship, and so we could work on the quantity of the phone calls, right? But I wonder if it's also like how long the phone calls are. Like, so you're saying you can endure a certain amount of that emotion?
Up to a point.
Up to a point, right? Because I think it would be hard to get that to go away completely.
Right.
But maybe. But you'd like to see that reduced quite a bit.
Yes.
So the duration of the phone call, the quantity of the phone calls, maybe the content too. Like, it seems like you want that to change, but I don't know how directly to get at that.
Right. We're kind of struggling with that as well.
I mean, it's not like we haven't tried to talk to her and say, relax, this is our life. This is, whatever we decide, you're going to have to just deal with it. But
it's It's more that need that she seems to have to micromanage every little thing. And it's hard to get her to realize that ultimately it is our choice what we do and how we have our children, raise our children.
You tried to communicate, I remember from before we talked about, you tried to communicate your logic, like your arguments, and that doesn't seem to be working. Mm-mm. And you really can't control somebody else's behavior. So would you be able, or would it be a good idea to, when there's a moment, like a phone call where things are getting the way you described, the intense content, to say, I'm not continuing this conversation?
I'm comfortable with that.
I can see you seem to be okay with that. But Janina, what do you think? Is that
my only worry is any possible repercussions of saying that. She may take it the wrong way. She might.
Bold move, right?
It is a bold move.
So what's the worst? So let's look at both sides. What's the worst case scenario if that was a technique that you decided to use?
Well,
for me, it's she continues to badger and I hang up the phone.
this is true.
So you don't see a large downside to this particular idea.
I mean, I've worked with children all my life, and when a negative behavior occurs, we ignore, and we only feed into the positive behavior that happens.
That might be true.
And so,
I'm just not sure about using the plan of ignoring with my mother.
I mean,
but it may be effective.
If we continue to repeat, we love you, we want you in our lives, we're kind of done with the aggressive behavior that you're demonstrating to us, and the micromanagement, and I would rather have positive conversations with you. And so every time the conversation turns negative, I would like to change it, and or maybe we just don't talk then, and I let you cool down and start again.
Definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and this doesn't have to be something that's well. First of all, you don't have to do it. Period. I mean, this is something we're talking about.
That's true.
But this is something you chose to do. It's not something you have to do in an instant. Like if you detected the kind of intense, critical behavior that's worrisome to you, you don't have to hang up the phone.
Right.
It could be something to say, look, this is something that, as Brooke was describing, right, that we're not going to continue. Warning, and then if it were to continue, you have to decide if you're going to follow through with that promise, which would involve hanging up at some point.
I feel like I'd be too aggressive.
You'd be a little too good at that particular technique.
Oh, I'd be.
She'd be fine with it.
I'd be fine. Which and then it concerns me, because then that puts the strain still on her, because she's gonna still suffer at some level.
Yeah, the worry here is, does this really solve any problems?
Right.
Like, are you just going to be worried about something else because now you've taken a kind of a hard line
right
with your mother, and
the next time she calls back, it might be double the intensity. We might have to deal with it getting worse before it gets better.
Maybe.
But if it ultimately does get better, I would be willing to deal with it bubbling a bit, if the outcome would ultimately be positive.
So if you could get to where you wanted to be with it, you could survive this kind of hard line, this hard position of you're simply not going to be subject to the that intensity and criticism. You're just not going to do it. All right, so that sets a firm boundary that's probably consistent with what you want. How are you going to do with the that potential backlash?
I think that if I have the support, that we could probably work through it together.
Okay.
All right, so it's really not as simple as just doing it.
Right.
There has to be a relational component between you two that can make it possible. So Brooke, specifically you supporting Janina through what understandably would be a rough time.
100%. I mean, this is something we really enjoyed talking about this because it was finally something after a long time we've completely agreed upon.
Right.
And that's just been so wonderful for us.
It's been a big relief to
Yes.
be able to agree on this, that this needs to
even,
change.
Even
so
if
that
we
can
set
move forward.
that hard boundary, I think that we still have this positivity going. And I'm 100% behind it.
All right. So do you think this, like moving after this session, this is something you want to try this week?
I think we could do that.
Yeah.
So let's work through kind of the steps of how this gets initiated. Like, is this a conversation that Janina, you have with your mother, that Brooke, you have together with Janina, with her mom? Like, how do you bring this up?
I mean, whatever's comfortable with you. If you don't want me to be there, or if you want me to be there, whatever you think she may respond to best.
I think it may be better if you're there. That way she can maybe see that there's another person that agrees that she's a little out of line.
Okay.
All right, so this is an in-person conversation with the three of you. All right, so how do you start something like this off?
I guess we tell her how we feel.
Yeah.
I might have to work on that so that I don't come off as abrasive.
So you want to deliver it in a way that seems polite.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. So it may be helpful to actually write some of this down, like plan together with
Yeah.
at least the
Write it.
talking points.
An outline of what we want to get across. We can do that.
Yeah. And I think it would make sense to prepare for it not necessarily going well.
That's fair.
Right. So kind of decide what you're really going to do, and if there's some retreat points you need to build in to back up to a different plan, how you're going to do that. There's a measure of resolve that's inherent in this type of change, right? How you'll react, how long you'll react, like how long will you keep this conversation going if it's going very badly, or you just kind of deliver your ultimatum and walk away. You have to think through these things. You mentioned there's a lot of intensity. I could guess that this wouldn't be an exception to that.
Probably not.
No.
Most likely not.
No. It's going to be difficult to maintain control of the conversation. I think it's true, too. So if it does veer off course and have a negative response, it's going to be difficult to control it, to calm down, so we may just want to have extra planning for that.
Should we prepare for the worst?
Yeah.
I think you do want to be realistic. I want to be realistic going in, and this is an emotionally charged topic. This dynamic has been in place for a while, and I don't think it would be particularly reasonable to think it would change quickly. But you're going in there and you have a fairly simple message that Brooke and Janina, you're both on the same page. You're unified in this decision, and you are not going to be open to that intensity and emotion, at least not for long periods of time. Right? You're going to cut it off. That's really those are the key talking points for what you want to communicate.
Okay, I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that seem like a balanced way to move forward? Do you both feel good about it?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the most positivity we felt in a long time. And so I think tackling this might help us tackle other issues too, and you know,
Just keep continuing
yes,
positivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it'll show, among other things, that you're working effectively as a team.
Yeah.
And I know that's been a challenge with the issue of the potential pregnancy and that kind of disagreement you've been having.
Yeah.
And this is something you can agree on, and perhaps, and function as a team. So if you want to make that the homework, let's do that. And it'll start with really writing it out. So you have a few ways you could go about this. You could write all this down, maybe role play it, and hope for the best, as you mentioned, prepare for the worst, and come back into session next time with that. Or you could write it all down and try to have that conversation.
Okay.
I think that's something you have to probably, I'd recommend writing it down and deciding whether you want to come back and see me and talk that out, or if you feel like, no, we have it, let's just take it in and run with it. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer there. I think it's just whatever you feel like
Whenever we feel ready.
Yeah.
If we're not ready,
If we're not ready, we're not ready.
We'll show you her outline, and that'll be our next session, I guess.
Yeah, that's progress.
And
Absolutely.
if we are ready, we'll let you know how it goes. We'll see how we can work through it this week.
All right. Well, it does seem, based on speaking with both of you today, that you have a higher level agreement.
Definitely.
Seem to be more positive, right? It seems like, regardless of whether this plan is really successful or not, although I hope it would be, you do seem to be functioning more on the same page.
Definitely.
Right. So let's try to keep that. Let's try to keep that going, and we'll pick up with this next week.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.